And welcome to another edition of Spits and Suds. I'm Gavin Spittle of 105.3 The Fan. Stars coming off back-to-back games and won't be in action until this upcoming Friday. Big weekend this weekend. Winnipeg and Colorado on the road. But first, we never take days off on Spits and Suds, and that's because we have our NHL and Stars insider, the greatness from EPRinkside.com. If you're not following his Shap Shots Substack, you need to. It was so great to meet some Spits and Suds listeners last week at the game, and they're like, I follow Sean Shapiro, I follow Robert Tiff, and I follow David Castillo. That's awesome. Thank you so much for supporting these guys who give so much to the program, as well as all the other things that he's doing. The Late Game movie, which you can find in a bunch of places. Just Google search The Late Game movie. He's your favorite goalie. He is the greatness of Sean Shapiro. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing really well, Gavin. I am a bit tired after the not only did we have the trade deadline and everything that involved all of that and some West Coast games, but Saturday night, a quick shout out to my father-in-law. It was his 60th birthday this weekend. So Saturday night was we were over at my real fun. My father-in-law knew the birthday party was happening, but it was extend his brother flew in from Florida, so my wife's uncle, there was probably about 20 to 30 people there, and it was a blast. So a quick shout out to my father-in-law, who is who I've always you know how the Stars always do when the Dallas Stars and Texas Stars, whenever they do like the giveaway like hats, right?
Yeah.
I always would snag one for him. So he, even though he's in Toledo, Ohio, he always wears he's still working his way through a bunch of the old Texas Stars hat giveaways that I've held on to for him. So shout out there. So happy birthday to my
happy birthday,
father-in-law,
Pops.
and
Yeah,
everything like that. So
absolutely, the fact that he's wearing those hats means Sean Shapiro must be well liked in his side of the family.
I am. They haven't kicked me out yet, so that's good.
Long-term contract.
Yes,
You're
yes,
signing
yes.
you're signing the Mikko Rantanan no movement clause.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. All right. So the one thing that I did tweet, because I was really excited about this, it was awesome. But I did think to myself, because people were asking like, well, what do you think now? What do you think now? And my immediate reaction was, well, if the defense can hold up. And after this weekend, I wanted to get your thoughts, and I know it's just 2 games since then. Obviously, we saw some defensive lapses. Ilya Lyubushkin with a pretty tough game on Saturday night. And granted, it is Draisaitl, McDavid, a lot of talent. Last night, I thought the Stars defense overall played better, but wanted to get your thoughts on this defense as far as, because from what you've been saying, Sean, the Miro timetable is somewhat of a question mark.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of know it will be Miro's done for the regular season. We know that much effectively. There was at one point somebody was, and I don't know who, but I just remember at one point on Twitter it was going around like, oh, he won't be back till round 2. And that, from my understanding, is not true, is not definitive at all. Now, the only real timeline the Stars are working on is they are assuming Miro will not play before April. I think April 17th is the last regular season game, or that's the last day of the NHL regular season. So they're assuming Miro won't play for then. Miro moving to LTIR opened up some potential new cap space around the deadline. But the other thing it does as well is Miro moving to LTIR, Gavin, that's the LTIR space that allows Tyler Seguin to come back and maybe play a couple regular season games before that. That's an important note right there. I would imagine that we could see Miro Heiskanen back for game 1 of the playoffs. We might see him back in the middle of that series. It's going to be somewhere around there is what I last heard. And now obviously we're talking about a knee injury, so timelines can change. That's kind of the non-update update, if that makes sense. And it just that's the reality of what we can work with right now. The other thing that is, I think this weekend was a good example of is the back-to-back shows us. I think the Stars defense is good enough to get through the rest of the regular season. It is the game against Vancouver last night was a good example. You know what? They're playing tired. They're playing the second game of back-to-back. They did a pretty good job.
Yep.
They need Miro they're going to need Miro to get past Edmonton. They're going to need Miro. They're going to need Miro. They're likely going to need Miro in a series against Colorado, and that's why it gets a little bit scary and dicey if they do get Colorado in the first round and you don't know the timing on his injury, because the speed on the back end, that's where the Stars are going to be exposed. And without having Miro to match up against McDavid on Saturday night, we saw what happened to Lyubushkin.
Yep.
And that to me is the what is Miro making right now? $9.25 million or whatever, or whatever it is. Like, that's the $9.25 million question of when will Miro be back for those playoff matchups, and how will he look coming back? That's because Lyubushkin is fine in zone. It's the transition defense where the Stars could get burned by some of those players. Now, the good news is there's not a ton of players. There's only so many. There's a reason Connor McDavid is so rare in the world, right? But if you get Colorado in the first round, no matter who you get in the first round, realistically, you're gonna face a player that can burn you.
Yeah.
If it's Colorado, it's going to be McKinnon. Maybe a Nichushkin. If you get Minnesota in that space, it could be. I mean, peak Kaprizov, if fully healthy and running, is going to cause some problems. So we are learning a lot about the Stars defense, and the big one for me is, can Lee and Bischel continue to take the next step? Because Leon's game is interesting because I think he's a really good in-zone guy, Gavin.
Yep.
And he's probably, you're looking the long-term tracking for Bischel for what he's going to be. It's more so he's going to be a more physical version of Esa Lindell in the long run, right? You think about that. Like, I think that's a good way to kind of put what Bischel will be at his peak. He's going to be Esa Lindell with being a little bit more physical, maybe a little bit more proactive when it comes to moving the puck. But he's not going to be a speedster. He's not going to defend transition as well as a guy like Miro is. That's just unrealistic. He's not going to defend the transition of the game the way Thomas Harley is. So that's why Thomas Harley is effectively being asked to slow everything down for the other team and then also get up and go and do the same time. And right now, Thomas Harley is just working back and forth, back and forth. He's going to get a lot of money for it in 2 years, but this is where the Stars, this is how important Miro Heiskanen is, and it's not a surprise. It's just it's like, what was the year, Gavin, where Peyton Manning got hurt and people were like, hey, I'm going to give Peyton Manning MVP votes because we saw how bad the Colts were without him? When Miro's gone, it shows you how valuable he is to this defense.
Yeah, no, that's really good point. One of the things that I talked about on Spits and Suds was how Mikko Rantanen creates space, and elite players, you have to account for them on the ice. Therefore, it opens up other players. And on that Granlund first goal last night, which was a terrific rebound, put it in the net. Great to see him score. But we do have to point out that Granlund's been a terrific impact as far as assists as well. But, when you look at the replay and you see two Vancouver players surrounding Mikko Rantanen, you just kind of smile and you say, okay, that's just game two. And we've already seen a perfect example of what Mikko Rantanen brings, even when he doesn't have a goal or an assist.
He's got a big orbit.
Yeah.
Right? Like big orbit of attention, big orbit of big gravity, if you want to call it, that draws people to him both on the physical and emotional side of watching the game. So that is going to open up some space for other players. And I think Robert had a really good good point in his piece from the Edmonton game on Saturday night, where he said, if this is how scary Mikko Rantanen looks in a game where the Stars lost 5-4 and he got rocked a couple times, imagine what he's going to look like when they're looking good right now. So that is, and that was a little bit of what we saw against Vancouver. And I mean, this is like, I don't know how many times it can be said, but the Stars haven't had a guy like this, Gavin. This
Right.
is not,
He's
this is
elite.
not, this is, you're talking about a guy who every time people in Dallas always say, you know what, the Stars never win awards. The Stars never, for the first time since maybe ever, the Stars have a chance of they have a potential guy who could win the Hart Trophy during his career in Dallas.
Yep.
That's something the Stars have never had.
Yeah.
Like Mikko Rantanen could win the Hart in Dallas.
Right.
That is what we're talking about here.
Yeah. He has an opportunity to have 100 points with 3 different teams in one season. You know, that just kind of shows.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And on that note, Sean, I thought you brought something up that really, on your Substack, that a lot of people didn't talk about, and Robert and I brought it up on our trade deadline show on Friday, was a lot of people assumed, okay, well, are we getting a guy with attitude based on, him not wanting to sign in Carolina, leaving, but they really didn't know the background. You brought up a great point as far as stylistically, and this was what was so interesting about Rantanen getting traded to Carolina. Stylistically, it just wasn't the same. Whereas, as you pointed out in your article, Colorado and Dallas have a lot more creative offensive freedom. Why don't you go into that a little bit and explain to our listeners, because I just thought it was a fascinating deep dive and probably one of the many reasons that Rantanen wanted to come long-term to Dallas.
Yeah, and I think it's important to acknowledge what Carolina does works, right? Carolina is a consistently is a consistent playoff contender, does a great job. But they play differently than everyone else in the NHL effectively. Carolina plays and lots of teams forecheck and get hard, but Carolina, it is the letter of the law in Carolina is all 4 lines get the puck. They dump the puck more than any team in the league. They're one of the best teams in the league at retrievals. They dump the puck in. They run defensemen into the boards. They dig out the puck. They work it back to the point for shots, and then the cycle goes over and over again. On Tuesday night, Gavin, or a week ago, Gavin, so 6 days ago from when we recorded this, I was sitting in Detroit watching Carolina in person against the Red Wings, and Rantanen still played for Carolina in that game, and there was a shift where Simon Edvinsson and Albert Johansson, 2 young Red Wings defensemen, were stuck on the ice for 4 minutes and 28 seconds against the Carolina cycle.
Wow.
4 minutes and 28 seconds shift for 2 young defensemen who just got cycled and cycled and cycled in the middle of the hurricane cycle. That is a annoyingly efficient and pretty boring game to watch. It is effective, but it is not a style that fits well with Mikko Rantanen. Mikko Rantanen is more of he wants the puck on his stick. He wants to come in and play. He wants to create. He wants to, like, you watch him play. He wants to give and go. He wants to do more of that. It's less of giving the puck back to the other team and then trying to win it. And so that's what Carolina does. And it's honestly, like, Gavin, Logan Stankoven scored in his first game for Carolina. I think Logan Stankoven's going to thrive in Carolina's system.
Good system.
I think he's going to do great there. But Mikko Rantanen was not going to fit there. Different players have different systems and different fits. And he's not playing. He's no longer going to be playing with Nathan MacKinnon like he was in Colorado, but he's going to be playing a similar system now. He's going to be playing in a role where they're going to want him to create with the puck on his stick and create space for others doing so. And I honestly think he's going to just, if the first 2 games are any indication, I thought it before he played his first 2 games, but the first 2 games have only sent more of a message in my mind that this is like this is a legit superstar that is going to Like he's going to be it's going to be a really
Yep.
good looking thing for Dallas long
And,
term.
and I love how with 3 minutes left in the period, Jason Robertson gets kind of cross-checked into the ribs, and Rantanen's the first over there. To me,
He's got a bit of that streak. Yeah.
yeah, that was
Like
that
so.
was good as well. Okay, some really interesting questions from our Spits and Suds listeners. So a lot of people were reaching out to me, Sean, and they were saying this has to seal up GM of the year, third straight for Jim Nill. And my response was, oh, not so fast, kind of Lee Corso like, not so fast, my friend, because personally, Sean, I have Brian McClellan / Chris Patrick. Patrick took over in July, so I don't know how they do that as far as the Washington Capitals are concerned. But I have them in the running as well as Don Waddell as far as what Columbus has gone through. And then even yesterday, the resilience of this Columbus team giving up 2 shorthanded goals and then just having a massive third period against the Rangers. And they're in the wild card slot, which obviously people knew. I mean, heck, I just watched a special trade deadline, and Don Waddell was in the room, and to his own scouts and assistant GMs and to Rick Nash, guys, we got to be honest, we didn't expect to be here. So I think they're playing above expectations. So how are you feeling about the whole GM of the year situation?
I think the first thing we have to add real quick is the caveat of when it's voted upon, because it's an award that um, it's an award with the timing of when it's voted upon makes it not a regular season award. They vote on the GM, and the GMs vote for GM of the year. So the peers vote. So the GM of the year ballots for the Jim Gregory Award are given out after the second round of the playoffs, before the conference finals. So it's why you look almost every year. It's 3 of the 4 GMs in the conference final are the 3 finalists. It's pretty common, right? So it's happened sometimes where a GM outside of the conference final doesn't get it, but that's so. If you're asking me to handicap the award, Gavin, I think Jim Nill's the favorite because I think the Stars. Well, let's put it this way: I think whoever wins the Colorado Dallas first round series,
Okay.
I think that GM will win GM of the year.
Okay.
Because they will be in the conference final. They will likely get to the conference final, and they will their work for their team will have helped get them there.
Wow.
If I was to give the award based off the regular season,
Yep.
which I think is probably a better way to look at it, it's hard not to look at what's happened with Columbus. I mean, it is a really good. And then you look at the Jack Adams race too, and that is a regular season award. I'm interested to. I think Dean Evison has done a great job with that team. I think he might be the only reason a Spencer Carberry doesn't win it in Washington is because of what's happened in Columbus. So yeah, it's Jim could win it again.
Sure.
I think it's definitely, but there are definitely some other strong candidates.
Yeah.
So
I was just thinking Washington, obviously, because where they are in the standings, Logan Thompson coming on board, the trade for Jacob Chikrin. I just think they've made some really nice moves in Washington to kind of kickstart that franchise and organization. And heck, we were talking about like is Ovechkin just hanging around just to hang around as far as the record, and they're kind of like in this place similar to what happened with Dirk Nowitzki here, where it's like the team's not necessarily the greatest, but you want to see your guy get the record. Now you're seeing your guy get the record and the team thriving. So real nice story in Washington.
We are, Gavin, this is crazy to think about. We are now at the spot. I don't know if you remember the commercial. We are now an Ovech trick away from him breaking the record.
I don't remember. Wait, fill me. What's the Ovech trick?
Do you remember? I'll have to send you the link.
Okay, I
remember
like
there
this.
was I can't remember which company it was, but it was I think it might have been, basically it was an Ovech trick. It was a commercial. He scored 9 goals in a single game in the commercial, which obviously has never happened. And they were calling the Ovech trick and everything like that. Well, he is now the Ovech trick away from becoming the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer, which that's like, I mean, the fact that he is this close, Gavin, is wild to me. And I was thinking about this the other day, where how many goals away, Gavin, do you think realistically, um, how many goals do you think realistically he has to be away before Gretzky and company start following him around? Is it 4 goals? Like what is
Yeah.
the what is the number where all of a sudden it's like, hey, we need to have Wayne in the building because this is possible it could happen in the next game. Is it 4 goals? Like, because
I,
you could be like, you know what? Like, is it because if it's three, he's there. Like,
yeah,
if it's
yeah.
three
It's
or less,
three. He's got to be there.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. But is it 4? Like, do you kind of like look at it that way, where hey, if you can't, like, I don't, I'm fascinated to see how that goes, because one of the things that Gretzky has talked about in the past was Gordie Howe followed him around when he was close to breaking the all-time goals record, and he will return the favor someday if anyone ever did that. So I'm just interested to see it. I have taken us completely off the rails, Gavin, so I don't know
I
where we're
love
supposed to
this.
be right now.
No, well,
So-
we have a very interesting question from JLux007. I love it when you take us off the rails. That's what this program is all about. So JLux007, otherwise known as Jeffrey, asked this question. How do players travel when not with the team? Like Roope Hintz getting injured and being sent home by Dallas. He adds, catch a Southwest flight, or did he get a private charter? It's a fascinating question, Sean.
Probably on an American flight to
Okay.
be because they were coming back from Canada. Southwest doesn't fly to
Yeah,
Vancouver.
yep, fair. But it's domestic, right? It's commercial.
It's commercial. It is commercial. Are you ready for a fun fact, Gavin?
Yes, always, always.
In the AHL, the Texas Stars do not, and this is one of the big differences. Once you go from the AHL to the NHL, you move from flying commercial to charter. But in the American Hockey League, you only fly commercial. The Texas Stars fly Southwest for everything. And do you know why the Texas Stars fly Southwest for everything, Gavin?
Ooh, I mean, it can't be the answer, but I would think they'd have a partnership with them.
It is not that. It
Okay.
is bags fly free.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Everyone gets 2 checked bags for free. So all of a sudden, when you've got an entire hockey team traveling with the hockey bag and all of that,
Yes.
like the fact of the matter is the Texas Stars fly Southwest, and other AHL teams do as well, because bags fly free.
Wow. That is fascinating. Okay, so this is a deep dive. But, okay, so when Roope Hintz goes home, does he get advantage miles? And do the Texas Stars get Southwest miles when they fly? Because they're flying commercial.
Yes, there have been players, if the players are smart, they will go and get their advantage. Some are smarter about it than others. So it is just like technically now the players don't typically go in. Not many do it because they live in a way different tax bracket than you or I do, Gavin. But
Yep.
just like if the players were to stop by the front desk and make sure their Marriott Bonvoy number were on their room, they'd be getting lots of Marriott points. Now,
That's true.
I'm of the being a sports writer, I am all about the Marriott points.
Yep,
So
yep.
that is, but I am also not in the. I don't think Mikko Rantanen needs to use Marriott points for his vacation.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great. Oh, these little small nuggets is what I absolutely love about the program, that we can get into these small nuances. Okay, and then a lot of people, and we'll end on this, Sean, were asking about full face shields in the NHL, and specifically Stars fans, because of the Marchment getting hit twice and now Roope Hintz going down. And I'm guessing, Sean, 2 parts. 1, the players don't want it, but B, what would the process would be? I would think it would have to be part of a new collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah, it would have to be part of a new collective bargaining agreement, and then it would probably be grandfathered in, similar to the visors, like how just Jamie Benn will likely be the last player in the NHL without a visor. Either Jamie Benn or Ryan O'Reilly, whoever's career lasts longer, they'll likely be the last player without a visor. So it would be similar to that, where it would probably be grandfathered in. So it would take time if that was to happen. Just like if they went to the neck guard requirement, Gavin, players would be grandfathered in, where anyone who played
that's a good
before the
one.
neck guard Anyone who played before the neck guard was required would not have to wear one um, until would not have to wear one. That'd be their choice. Um, the other thing, and like I looked this up, so technically the rule is players technically aren't supposed to wear them unless they have a medical reason to not wear them.
Okay.
You're technically supposed to only use a visor. You're not supposed to use a full face shield. So you're technically not supposed to wear a full face shield. You're only supposed to wear one if you're injured or hurt. I have a hard time believing I have a hard time believing anyone would enforce that, right? Like that's one of those where it's like it's the way it's written, you have to wear a visor unless you're hurt and wear the full face shield. But if a player went and said, "Hey, I'm going to wear this," it's going to be a real bad look for the NHL if they try to enforce that and not let a player protect themselves.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of that. I mean, the big thing about it, Gavin, is and like I've spoken to I've actually this is a good it's a really good tease for me, Gavin. You didn't even know you were
Nice.
teeing me up for this. I've got a story coming later this week where I talked to Mason Marchment about a week ago. I talked to Kirill Marchenko down in Columbus about what it's like playing with the visor, and I got my guy Sports Tunes to put together a pretty nice cartoon. So that'll come out later this week over at
Great.
shapshotshockey.com. Um, and I talked to those guys publicly about this, and then I talked about 6 or 7 other players that have played with visors in the recent years. And then basically it's a bit of the ethos of the sport, Gavin, and right or wrong, and this is just I hate to put it as bluntly as it is, but they said if you wear a visor, if you're wearing a full cage, there's some derogatory comments thrown your way that are not very tasteful that I'm not going to say on this program.
Oh,
And it's just like
yeah.
that is a bit of the ethos of it, a bit of the so it's one of those where the visor, the full shape, the full cage, the face shield, it wouldn't hurt the game, it wouldn't hurt the play. There's some people who disagree with me on that, but I watched college hockey, I've
Right.
watched international hockey, I've watched there's we they're like, oh, people wouldn't be able to find the pucks, and there's the people wouldn't be able to find this, the vision would be hurt. Well, you know what? The position that requires more vision than any other happens to have full facial protection.
That's
It's
true.
goalies.
Yep. Yep.
It's goalies. So it wouldn't be, it's really the cultural thing and to push back on that. And then it obviously connects back to the conversation about what does it mean for fighting? If you have full facial
Yeah.
shields, what does it mean for fighting? And that's a whole larger conversation on it. My
Right.
personal view, and I put this on Twitter, and of course I had some people who thought I was an idiot, and that's fine. They're entitled to their opinion. My personal view is my enjoyment of the sport would not change if they were wearing shields or cages. And you know what? It might even be better because I would have watched Roope Hintz play last night if he was wearing a face shield on Saturday
Yeah.
night.
Yeah. No, that's true. All right. One more quickie because I've been on the
Yeah, yeah,
Blackwell. I've been on the Blackwell train.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I got nothing against Oscar Beck. I'm glad he signed the 2-year deal. I actually thought he looked good last night. But at the same time, I would like to see Blackwell in there a little bit more. I just think he adds a lot. Wanted to get your thoughts. Talking to some people, I know the organization likes Beck's size, and I think they like some of the things that he can provide on that fourth line. But I don't know. I mean, granted, he hadn't played in a while, so I know he was like a little water bug out there. But I like every time Blackwell gets a shot.
Yeah, I like his speed. I like what
Yeah.
he brings to that for. I like the speed element. I think there's against a Edmonton or a an Edmonton or a Colorado, I'd like to see. I think he's a more valuable piece on that fourth line.
Yeah.
Maybe you could have a stylistic conversation about if you could get a Vegas, if you get a Winnipeg in the playoffs. Maybe that's where Beck's game kind of thrives a little bit more. I think that's one of the good things about the Stars' depth here. I think you have a couple different options to play into different ways. Now, the thing that I like, and I think this is something the Stars should do more and more of, is the Stars get to dictate how the game can be played. So that's why I like Blackwell's speed. I like what he brings. I like the way that goes. And so I think especially in the playoffs, that things can get tighter. Having that speed there is definitely gonna be valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll just say this, my friend. When we were talking to Spits and Suds listeners, you talk about like what I love is how people remember. And this is a conversation you and I have had during the bonus Montgomery era. That's how far we go back regarding. He said, you know what I like about Pete DeBoer? He puts out the line to start the game that he wants out there. He dictates it rather than throwing the third or fourth line out there like a Radek Foxer or something to go up against that. And he goes, I remember you guys talking about that on Spits and Suds. And I was like, yes, that is so. Kudos, Sean, man. You've made a lot of friends from this program, and you deserve a lot of credit. Really appreciate you jumping on this Monday as we continue rolling along. Playoffs getting close.
Yeah, we are about we're 5 weeks away from the final regular season game, and it is an interesting posturing spot now, right now, isn't it, Gavin?
Yes.
Where it's the Stars are.
Come on, Wild.
I know, it feels like it feels like the Stars are gonna be. They're definitely going to, not definitely, but don't count your chickens before they hatch, but it feels like they're going to be a higher seed, but they're actually they're closer to Winnipeg than they are to 3 right now.
Yeah.
So it's a fascinating chase right now to see how this is all going to shake out.
A lot of fun this weekend. Winnipeg and Colorado will determine a lot. So really interesting points at stake. All right. You can check out Sean at EP Ringside, at D Magazine. He has great articles, so you can subscribe to his Substack, which is Shap's Shots, and you can find all this information at Sean Shapiro. He's a great follow as well. He's a beast. Thank you once again, sir. That's going to do it for another edition of Spits and Suds. We'll have another episode coming up soon. You bet we will. Until then, have a great day, everyone.